And welcome everybody to another episode of the Primetime Preview here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Ricky K back with you here to give you your remote control of what to watch in sports this weekend. And we got a Game 7 Sunday night, Pacers Thunder. Who are the MVPs that got to step up? And what has been a rarity in the NBA over the last 35 years? We will get into that. Of course, the NHL is over. Congrats to the Panthers on a Stanley Cup win for the second year in a row. But we still have other sports to get into. WNBA, a big one out in Vegas this week. Does Asia Wilson play for Vegas against Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever? And the Liberty dealing with an injury as they head out west to Seattle. We'll talk, of course, our top 5 baseball series of the weekend, including an NL East division rivalry, a catcher heating up for Seattle, and Detroit and Tampa. Yep, that's there. And one series you should absolutely avoid watching this weekend. It's the championship in the College World Series. Coastal Carolina taking on LSU beginning tomorrow night. Who's got the edge there? We'll talk FIFA Club World Cup. Messi beat Porto yesterday, and a couple of big European powers in trouble, including Real Madrid. Will they go to 0-2 this weekend? We'll talk Gold Cup. The U.S. advances to the knockout stage, but why one match Sunday will be very pivotal in the Gold Cup knockout round. It doesn't involve the U.S. We'll talk about that. We'll talk golf. Scotty Scheffler, Justin Thomas tied the Travelers. We will talk IndyCar Road America. We'll talk Denny Hamlin at Pocono. We'll talk NHRA, IMSA, and a whole lot more. It's all coming up next on the Primetime Preview here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all those sports. We'll be right back in just a minute to start your weekend TV guide. And welcome back, of course, to the Primetime Preview here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Ricky K back with you. And again, this is the show that we will get you set up for the weekend in sports. We're like your remote controller, but you feel free to comment here on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, X. What sports are you watching this weekend? What is the sporting event that you would DVR to watch again? If you used to have the DVR and want to go through it, or streaming services if you're out and about over the weekend. Of course, it's the first day of summer, longest day of the year. It is beautiful here in the New York City area where we are. Of course, it's going to get to like 100 degrees coming up this week. Want to remind you, of course, you can follow us on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube at IE Sports Radio. Be sure to go to iesportsradio.com, learn more about our flagship shows, as well as learn more about our insiders that cover every sport, every region, every team. We have a lot of great insiders and some great shorts going up on YouTube each and every day. And you can follow me on X at Rickinator555 as well. So let's lead with the NBA. Pacers Thunder, Game 7. The two greatest words in sports, Game 7. Sunday night, 8 o'clock Eastern on ABC. Of course, what's at stake for both these teams, both trying to capture a championship. That's very rare for both of these franchises. But what's also been very rare in the NBA is Game 7s themselves. There have been 5 Game 7s in the last 35 years in the NBA. 5. You don't get this very often. And a series that seemed lopsided from the beginning. Everybody thought the Thunder would run roughshod over the Pacers. The fact that we're even at this point, we've had some crazy moments along the way where there's Halliburton in Game 1. The Thunder are finding a way to steal a game in Game 4 in Indiana. So both these teams, if they lose this series, are going to have moments that will haunt them forever. Maybe not so much the Pacers, because again, it's a Game 4 loss at home. You understand it. And it's not like they blew a late game situation. But the Halliburton one, I think, would doom Oklahoma City even more. So that's a problem for them in a nutshell. But to me, when you look at this series, I'm trying to look at the keys to a Game 7 and give you sort of the primetime guys to watch. Of course, Thunder favored right now by 6.5, but that spread has gone down. It's 8.5 to begin Game 7. I'm going to start with the primetime MVP for me on the Pacers side, and that's their bench. Like, this is a Pacers team that has been very good in terms of having the depth pieces, because you think about Tyrese Halliburton dealing with this calf injury. You think about trying to get him to manage his minutes, and they did that last night with just 23 minutes of action. But think about the bench that has stepped up in some of these big games. Obi Toppin last night, 4 3-pointers. He had 20 points. TJ McConnell, who, of course, is logging a lot of those heavy minutes with Halliburton, limited, 12 points and 6 of 12 shooting. And this wasn't even when you look at Ben Shepherd had 7 points, including that buzzer-beating 3 at the end of the third quarter. Not including Bennett Mathurin, who had only 2 points. And that's one of their signature scorers off the bench. For a Pacer team that still made 15 3-pointers last night. And that's usually what the Pacers are around. They're around that 10 to 15 3-point spot. Because Nembhard had 3 of them. Nesmith had 2. If the Pacers can hit between like 13 and 17 3-pointers, they're going to be in every game they play. That's given. So while we talk about Siakam, we talk about Nembhard, we talk about Halliburton, you think about role players in game 7s. Because that's where you write your legacy. You think about that guy that comes up. You think about, let's go with like 1997 with the Marlins and Edgar Renteria getting a game-winning hit. You think about Luis Gonzalez in 2001 with the Diamondbacks. Just throwing out baseball ones just to give you an idea. Think about players that will get remembered for a long time. Sid Bream, of course, in the Braves Pirates back in the 90s. Who knows? Maybe Obi Toppin or TJ McConnell or Bennett Mathurin has that signature game 7 that lifts the Pacers to a championship. That, yes, we'll talk about the stars. And to me, Pascal Siakam, who had a double-double last night, 16 points, 13 boards. He's the guy, I think, under the microscope because of his experience winning a championship. And at times he takes over these games. But the bench, I think, is a big key for Indiana if they want to get that title. On the Thunder side, to me, it's Jalen Williams. Jalen Williams last night, to me, very disappointing game, considering he had the 40-point performance in game 5. He comes back as 16 points, 3 boards, but the Thunder needed a lot more last night. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander had 21 in the game. Hartenstein did have 10. The Thunder bench did absolutely nothing, and I think you look at this team going forward, I want to see more from Chet Holmgren, who again made no threes. The Thunder starters combined to go 1 for 13 from 3-point last night, and Lou Dort was the guy who made the 3-point. So if Williams has that 25, 30-point game, then the Pacers are kind of in trouble. If SGA doesn't have that second star, the Thunder are in trouble. So when you think about this game as a whole, the key to me is going to be turnovers. Last night, the Thunder had 21 turnovers. That's going to do them in every time. But you look at the losses that Indiana's had, it's because OKC's been the one able to force the issue defensively, get aggressive, allow Indiana to make those mistakes. So to me, it's kind of simple because you would think, oh, if you just outscore the opponent, you're going to win. But it's also if you get less turnovers than your opponent, then you're going to win. And it just goes back to the Thunder, to me, are the better defensive team, and I think they could score a decent amount of points. Like last night, they scored 91, but they've been regularly putting up in the 105s, 110s, 150. I don't think the Thunder are going to shoot that poorly again. That would mean Indiana would have to have that 17 to 18 3-point game. Now, it does help them that Tyrese Halliburton for the Pacers does get a couple more days to heal up. I'm still not a fan of this 1 game every 2 or 3 days stuff. But that's where we're at. The NBA gets that Sunday national stage to themselves. But at least now Halliburton gets that extra rest that he needs. But to me, as great as this Pacers run has been, and if the Pacers win this title, it's probably going to go down as one of the more surprising titles in NBA history. When you think about the Pistons when they beat the Lakers, when they had Kobe, Shaq, and what was left of Karl Malone and Gary Payton. You think about the Mavericks when they had Dirk Nowitzki and they beat the Heat with LeBron, Wade, and Bosh, probably goes on that list. But also, when you think of it this way, the Pacers have the star in Halliburton, but they don't really have a superstar, unless you view Halliburton that way, which I wouldn't blame you if it did. But if the Pacers have that complete team, Rick Carlisle would get yet another championship, add that to his great coaching career. I think the Thunder, though, have more at stake. And I think they're going to win this game because of their defense, as you see below. But think about how they are after losses this year. They're 18-2 after losses. So they rarely lose back-to-back games. And in the playoffs, they haven't lost back-to-back games yet this year. You also go back to how they played at home against Denver when there was a Game 7 in the second round. And they absolutely wiped the floor with the Nuggets. They took Jokic out of the game. Kind of makes you think they've got a game plan for Halliburton to take him out of the game. And when you turn Halliburton into the passer, not as much the guy who makes everything go, that usually is in favor of the opposition. So I'm going to take Oklahoma City tomorrow, or Sunday, I should say. Give me the points. Just 6.5, as I said. I think they've got enough to get through, and I think SGA has another great performance in him to get that win. Taryn Rodriguez, of course, in the house. Taryn, the man behind the glass, and of course, you heard him last night on Leadoff Thursday. So thank you, Taryn, for hopping in. And Larry B, of course, in the house. Thank you, Larry. Let's get into the WNBA. A couple big games this weekend. Starts Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern, since we're on the basketball. It's the Fever against the Aces. Fever have locked their berth in the Commissioner's Cup, where they'll play the Minnesota Lynx. Great game by Caitlin Clark last weekend against the Liberties. Indiana gave the Liberty their first loss. The key to this game, to me, and what makes it a must-watch or a watch on your TV guide, does Asia Wilson play? Asia Wilson's missed the last few games with a concussion. It's not known yet if she's going to play. But you look at this game, if she does, you get two 500 teams. Wilson's averaging 20 a game. You got the stuff with Indiana happening against Connecticut the other day, which, again, you talk about teams playing physical with Caitlin Clark. Indiana doesn't like that. It creates a whole thing, and it creates more buzz for the WNBA for sure. This game would definitely create some buzz if it's Wilson playing and Clark playing, and you got Indiana's high-octane offense against the Vegas side that's averaging 82 points allowed on defense. Becky Hammond's club definitely is not as locked in defensively as I think she would like them to be. So it's a good chance for Indiana to really step their game up on offense, really keep this going, put the pressure on. They're 44% as a team shooting the ball this year. And while they're 6-6, got to remember a lot of that was when Clark was out. So this could get a good test, though, for the Pacers, of course, without their head coach, Stephanie White, who is taking leave of absence for the time being. So a lot of good storylines in this one. Again, that's Sunday, 3 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. And then the Liberty are out in Seattle taking on the Storm. That's Sunday night game, 7 o'clock Eastern. Storm are 7-5 right now. This is a team that is coming off of a strong stretch of games. They did blow out the Sparks on Tuesday, but that was a loss to the Valkyries. Valkyries, by the way, playing pretty well. Kayla Thornton, she's got double-digit points in like 5 straight games. She's playing great. But the Storm have been right around that 80-point average. They're playing pretty well after that defensive loss to Vegas on June 1st. And I think this is going to be an interesting test because of the Liberty battling some injuries. I mean, you think about the Liberty, they lost last night to Phoenix. Mercury are playing well, and that was off a back-to-back. So got to give Phoenix a lot of credit for that. And Alyssa Thomas has really changed the way they play defense. The Liberty have a significant injury in Jonquel Jones. She left the game last night with an ankle injury. She's been battling an ankle injury for the last couple of weeks. She came back after missing 2 games and re-aggravated again. As I tweeted last night on the New York Insider account, the goal for the Liberty is to win back-to-back championships. In order to do that and get through a 44-game season, they need Jonquel Jones. So to me, even if she's okay to play, and I saw today Madeline Kenny does a great job from New York Post, was reporting that there's a chance Jones could show up to practice tomorrow and maybe play Sunday. I would still think keep her out as precaution. Remember, the Liberty don't have to have the Commissioner's Cup, so they'll have kind of that rest. But you think about it, they'll have 3 games in the course of the next week where they're at Golden State, at Phoenix, and then at Atlanta to end June before they play on July 3rd against the Sparks. That's where I think you got to take the chance and rest Jones. Here's the other problem Liberty have. Leona Phoebus is off playing Eurobasket, so she's not there, which means they need the Maureen Johannesses, the Rebecca Gardners, the Isabel Harrisons, the Kennedy Burks to step up, because even though Stewie had a great game last night, Sabrina Ionescu was 1 for 10 from 3. That's a problem. They also turned it over 20 times. Like, that game should have been a lot more lopsided than it was. but give Phoenix credit. They found a way to win. And Larry asked, do I think the Liberty lose more than 10 to 12 games this season? Even hurt, they're still really strong. Well, they're 10-2 right now. In a 44-game slate, they got about 32 games left. So that would mean the Liberty would have to go 24-8 to get to 10 losses. I mean, you got to look at it from this way. They're going to play the Fever back-to-back in July in terms of back-to-back home games. I don't know if they're going to be able to win both of them. That would be real interesting if they did. You got to think when they Minnesota, they got one or two of those games. But it goes back to really when you look at the WNBA, we talked about the last couple of weeks. Look at the league as a whole. There's only 5 teams with a winning record. Now, Golden State's 500 and Indiana's 500, but there's a lot of bad teams. So maybe the Liberty struggle on a C night or Minnesota struggles on a C night. They still find a way to win. I think, though, you got to throw Phoenix, though, in that good territory of teams that can compete. Look, they're 10-4. The Mercury did get blown out by the Lynx last time they played, but this is a Phoenix team starting to get hot, starting to get better, and I think they've got that defensive strong force with Alyssa Thomas. They had Monique Akoa Makani last night. She scored 21 points. She's a rookie. But Thomas, again, 18 points, 15 boards, 7 assists. She's a difference maker. There's a reason why Phoenix Mountain acquired her. So I think they're definitely a next factor. Seattle, I think, is a strong team. And again, I still don't think we've seen the Vegas that we're going to see later in the year. So I think the Liberty will lose a few more games, but largely I think it could be if they do, it's because of health. It could be because of health because there's not going to be games where Stewie gets your great game or Nescu gets your great game. If Jones is seriously banged up, that's a big piece of their rebounding that they would lose. And Larry's like, I just like them a lot. I want to see them win so bad. No, they're a fun team to watch. Sandy Bardell has done a really good job with this group, and you got to give her a lot of credit for kind of figuring out how to really get this team to click, especially a super team. The way they've been able to connect over the last 2 years has been so much fun to watch. Let's get into baseball. And as we noted in the last couple of weeks, I've been giving you my top 5 series of the week. We usually have a series of the week. I like to give you 5 because I think there's some potential going to give around the league. And there's some pretty good ones. Obviously, we don't have Padres-Dodgers, unfortunately, because that stuff was crazy last night. Dodgers keep hitting Fernando Tatis, so the Padres decide to hit Ohtani. And it gets crazy. But again, you bring Ohtani up in the 9th inning when you're down 3. I don't really know if that's intentional or not. But you get why Suarez would maybe try to throw inside a little bit. The only game that took place today, and that's going to be in our series later, Seattle, a 9-4 win over the Cubs. Sammy Sosa returned to Wrigley Field today. Always good to see Sosa back in the Chicago faithful, and that's going to be a really good series. We'll get into that in a second. That's high on my list. Number 5, I'm going to keep it in a Minnesota thing for our insider Glenn Ritter over there. It's going to be Brewers and Twins. Twins are the home team, of course, in this series. But you look at Milwaukee, and I think it's really intriguing to look at this game tonight because of the rookie Jacob Mizorowski. Now, Mizorowski is one of the top pitching prospects in baseball. He threw 5 no-hit innings his first time out, so this is going to be his second pit performance. He's up against Joe Ryan, who's in one of the more consistent pitchers in the American League, 7-2, the 2.93 ERA. Brewers right now are 40-35. As of this moment, they are 5 games back in the Central, tied with the St. Louis Cardinals. Twins are at 37-37, 10 back in the AL Central, but the wild card there are only a game back. So this is a pretty entertaining series, a good rivalry, Minnesota and Wisconsin. I think it will be a really fun matchup for sure. Saturday, it'll be Jose Quintana against Simeon Woods Richardson. And on Sunday, Quinn Priester against Festa in that matchup. Number 4, of course, it's Red Sox Giants. And the reason being is Rafael Devers. Now, we talked about it on Tuesday on the Bullpen Bulletin with Mike Patton and myself. I think both sides are at fault in the Devers stuff. I think that the Red Sox were awful at communicating what they wanted Devers to do. They should have been more open with him if they were going to bring in Alex Bregman, who, of course, is friends with Alex Cora. So it was going to make sense that Bregman would get what he wanted. And when you tell Devers to get rid of the glove, and then you tell him that he's got to get back the glove and play first base when Tristan Casas goes down, he's naturally going to be angry. I think once Devers said his piece, he still had to do what was best for the team. I'm shocked the Red Sox traded him and traded him for next to nothing. What only helped the Red Sox, they got out of that contract. But the guy who they were going to come in for first base is Christian Campbell. and he got sent down to AAA. This is still a good young Red Sox team. When you look at Marcelo Meyer, Roman Anthony, they've got the prospects to make this work for the Red Sox. And they're still in a good position. I mean, if they're going to go out there and Sam Kennedy truly believes this is the long-term move, then go make a move at the deadline and make the team better. You've now got so much money you've cleared away. Either do it now or go get Kyle Tucker and win. But the Red Sox are right there. And you look at the Giants, Rafael Devers is the best player they've gotten since Barry Bonds. He easily makes an impact on this team. If they want to make a serious push in the West and the Dodgers, they had to make this move. Buster Posey makes his first big move as GM. And this is going to be a fun series to see if Devers plays third or plays first or where does he play this weekend? Do they troll the Red Sox at all? We're going to see. But your matchups this weekend, tonight at 10:15, it's Hunter Dobbins against Hayden Birdsong. Saturday, Brian Bale against Landon Rope. And then Sunday, Robbie Ray, who's been having a really good year for the Giants, 8-2 at a 2.68 against Lucas Giolito for the Red Sox. Of course, our New England insider, Brian Francione, saying can't wait to watch the Sox versus Devers tonight. And he 100% agreed with what I was saying after last week. But I do think that the Red Sox, there's going to be some kind of trolling in this series. It's going to matter of who trolls who in this matchup because it's going to be fun. I wish this was in Fenway and not in San Francisco. Number 3, and I would rank this a lot higher if Tarek Skubal was pitching, it's Tigers-Rays. And I never would have thought I would have said that in April, that we'd be talking Tigers-Rays in June. But we are. Tigers are 20 games over 500. They're playing extremely good baseball. And they're playing a Rays team that, since we were last year, they swept the Mets at Citi Field. They passed that test, beat the Orioles earlier this week, and the Rays are at home. And the Rays have been a very good home team. Junior Caminero and Brandon Lau are hitting the ball well in June, and since the Yankees have lost 6 of 7, they are now just 2 games back in the loss column in the AL East. Kevin Cash always seems to find a way to make the Rays click. And they've got a couple good matchups as well. Jack Flaherty against Shane Baz tonight out in Steinbrenner Field. Saturday, and our matchup Saturday is going to be Gibson Long against Ryan Pepio. Pepio's got a 3.11 ERA. He's one of the players to keep an eye on. And then Casey Mize, 7-2 to 2.96 for Detroit against Zach Littell on Sunday. Number 2, Mariners-Cubs. Cal Raleigh right now is, if Aaron Judge wasn't on a triple crown type of push, Cal Raleigh would be the MVP of the American League. He hits 2 more home runs today. He's got 29 on the year, passing Johnny Bench most home runs up until this point in June. Think about it. We're barely past Father's Day, and there's a player in the American League with 30 home runs, close to 30 homers. It's not Aaron Judge. Cal Raleigh. And we talk about the Mariners, the key for them was offense. Well, they found it considering Julio Rodriguez is in a down year. They found somebody to carry this team, and it's Raleigh for sure. Again, Seattle getting that win today. Mitch Garver hit 2 home runs as well. And we saw one of their top pitchers, George Kirby, today. Logan Gilbert goes for Seattle on Sunday. Plus, you also see Pete Crow Armstrong, who hit the ball off the scoreboard the other day against the Brewers, his 20th home run of the year, 20 homer, 20 stolen base season for him in just 74 games so far. So he has been one of those players to watch. I really did think about this as number 1, but I changed my mind. Our top series this week, and we talked about it all week here on the network, is Mets-Phillies. But the buzz to me is just not there, and it's because both these teams are not clicking. The Phillies are. They're playing some good ball for sure. The Mets aren't. They've lost 6 in a row. They just got swept by the Braves out in Atlanta. Now, the Braves put up their top 3 starters. They put together Spencer Strider and Chris Sale and Spencer Schwellenbach. So the top guys were on the mound. Braves were really looking to spark their season, and they might have. We're going to see what they do in the next couple of weeks. But the Mets are not whole. Senga gets hurt. They lose a couple key pitchers in their bullpen. We talked about the Minter injury earlier in the year, but Max Kranick now in the IL. And that was a guy they used a lot in mid-level situations. You talk about an offense that's not clicking. Francisco Lindor is never going to make the excuse, but Lindor is dealing with a broken toe. So that also plays a factor. You're looking at this offense, Mark Vientos is out. Brett Beatty's injured. They don't really have that complete group right now. There's not the spark they have the OMG Mets last year. And now they're also scrambling for starters with Senga's out. Tyler McGill's out. You're starting Paul Blackburn. Tonight, it's Blade Tidwell making his second start in the major leagues against Zach Wheeler. Probably not the best advantage for the Mets at that point, but they're getting consistent pitching from David Peterson. But the problem is you had a lead like you did Monday, 4-1 in the eighth. You can't hold it. And Reed Garrett's going to be asked to use a lot in high leverage spots. Can he keep that up? Can they get more bullpen help for Edwin Diaz? Can they get their starters back? Sean Manaea is on a rehab assignment today for Syracuse. Frankie Montas might be back this week against the Braves. But there's not a lot there. And that's the question of the David Stearns rotation. Will they be able to find that role? We shall see. It's Tidwell against Wheeler tonight on Apple TV, coming up in about 45 minutes. Saturday, it is Griffin Canning against Mick Abel. You haven't watched Mick Abel. He's been really fun. We talk about Andrew Painter with the Phillies, but as that prospect of the future, Mick Abel's 2-0 to 2.21 to begin his major league career. He's going to be one to watch as the season goes on. And then Sunday Night Baseball is David Peterson against Jesus Luzardo. Luzardo's been up and down, but Peterson, even though he doesn't have the velocity on his fastball, 5-2 to 2.60. He's been pretty good and one of the more consistent pitchers in the last year. So to give you our 5 to watch, we're going to give you our series to avoid. What that means is it's kind of my, in football, I used to call these the flip the channel game of the week. If it's the only game on, I'm flipping the channel and watching something else. And to me, it's Rangers Pirates. Now, probably not fair to the Pirates, but Paul Skeens isn't pitching. So that automatically usually puts the Pirates on there. But the Rangers just got swept by the Royals at home. They're 36-39. They're 7 games back. And I'm not really sure what to make of Texas going forward, especially with Houston playing well, Seattle playing well. We'll see what the Angels are. But this is just a weird series to me. There were other contenders on this list. The White Sox Blue Jays was on there. Braves Marlins was on there. D-backs Rockies is on there for sure. There were a couple of series that didn't make the cut. Orioles Yankees, which 2 months ago would have made the cut, but Baltimore has been terrible. And Royals Padres is not bad, but Rangers Pirates to me, the flip the channel series of the week. And yes, Brian Skeens is not pitching. So there are series that are snooze fest. I'll throw Texas and Pittsburgh, but you can find it. There's kind of a few snooze fests on this docket, but keep this in mind. Last week, there were 9 sweeps in weekend series in baseball. Will that happen again? Only time will tell. We'll take our first break. We'll come back. We'll talk College World Series. We'll look ahead to Coastal Carolina and LSU. And we will talk some soccer, FIFA Club World Cup. We'll get into the Gold Cup. We'll get into NWSL. And Jess, our host, Jim Patton Shenanigans, had a question on Gotham FC that I will touch on as well. You're listening to the Primetime Preview here on iSports Radio, your direct feed for all the sports. We'll be right back after this.
Hi, eSports Radio fans. This show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, single A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
there, IE Sports Radio fans. Be sure to check out our sponsor, Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. You just finished your very own wedding or baby shower invitations and you're looking for that extra special touch? Maybe you just wrote a letter to a relative or a friend and you want to add to their smile when they receive it. Then seal the deal with Cecilia's handmade sealing wax stamps for your invitations, letters, and gifts. You bring the deal, we'll bring the seal. You can find them on Instagram at sealthedeal_wax stamps and on Facebook, Seal the Deal Wax Seals.
And of course, thank you to our sponsors, Plant Jerky, Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Great snack to have throughout all the sporting events you watch this weekend. You're on the couch, you should have some Planet Jerky, Premium Brisket Beef Jerky, and Seal the Deal Wax Seals. Great seals for your invitations to your friends' sports viewing parties this weekend, especially if maybe you have an NBA Finals viewing party at your house Sunday night. Be sure to check that, our great, awesome sponsors. Brian asked me a question. Will I check out Fanatics Fest, which is over here in the city of the Javits Center? No. I did see the moment where Tom Brady ripped an Eli Manning jersey. To me, Fanatics Fest is cool, but it also costs you a lot of money for all these things. And I do love that there is this type of event going on in the city, but not my thing. But let's talk College World Series. We have our championship matchup. It begins tomorrow night. It is the 13 seed Coastal Carolina against the 6 seed LSU. Coastal Carolina, of course, a 26-game winning streak. They have rolled through this tournament, really haven't faced that much adversity. They beat Arizona in comeback fashion. Then they roll over Oregon State. They beat Louisville. That Louisville game Wednesday was over basically by the second, third inning. LSU has faced a good amount, and they beat UCLA. Then they play Arkansas. After beating them in the first game, they get down 5-3 in the ninth inning. Crazy stuff happens, and LSU moves on. And you got a couple of really good pitching matchups coming up over the next couple of days. It starts at game one. Cameron Flukie against Cade Anderson. We'll talk about Cameron Flukie real quick. This is a pitcher that, yes, he hasn't gone 100 pitches in 11 straight starts, but he's only a sophomore from New Jersey. He's actually put up some decent numbers, especially for the number 2 starter in this rotation. But this is going to be the game where Coastal uses their bullpen a lot. And while he did well in Sun Belt competition, in his last 2 starts in the Supers against Auburn and the regional against the College World Series against Arizona, he's only has 7 combined strikeouts. You talk about an LSU team that can put up runs in bunches, as you saw against UCLA. It might only take 1 crooked inning for Flukie's outing to, well, pardon the pun, be a little bit of a fluke. And I love LSU in this game because of Cade Anderson. Cade Anderson, his stock has risen up where he can be the top pitcher selected in next month's draft over Jamie Arnold from Florida State. Anderson is 11-1 with a 3.44 ERA this year. He has double-digit strikeouts in 6 of his last 9 starts. In all 9 starts, he has gone at least into the 6th inning. So LSU, if you go off those numbers, are going to get more length out of their team in this game with having a guy like Anderson as opposed to Coastal with Flukie. So I'm going to go with LSU in game 1. Game 2 is Sunday at 3 p.m. on ABC. This one I like more for Coastal because of Jacob Morrison. Jacob Morrison is probably the most underrated pitcher in college baseball. And I know we talk about Cage Wood and the great form he had against Murray State with the 19 strikeout no-hitter. But Jacob Morrison gets next to no love. He is 12-0 this year with a 1.82 ERA. You go back to his start against Oregon State. He went 7 2/3, 1 run, 5 hits, and he struck out 7 on 109 pitches. This is against an Oregon State team that put up runs in bunches in that over the course of the regional and of the Supers. So for Morrison to do that, he definitely has the composure to really shine on this stage. Meanwhile, you look at LSU, and Ianson's last start came in the rain suspended game against UCLA, went 3 innings, allowed 3 runs in the first inning, but was able to settle in. Ionson's got some nasty stuff. We've seen him come out of the bullpen during the Supers against Little Rock. Did some good things there. And he's definitely got the pitch arsenal to fool Coastal a little bit. But I'll take Coastal in game 2. Again, it's Sunday, 2:30, actually not 3, 2:30 on ABC. Game 3, if necessary, Monday at 7:30. I'm going to go with LSU. Now, the reason I'm going to do that is because I kind of like where LSU's offense is right now. I think LSU, to me, they had the big thrilling comeback, but it was Jared Jones is starting to heat up, and that's their best player. Jones had the home run in the 8th inning against Arkansas to tie the game. He comes up with the walk-off single in the 9th inning after Hernandez tied the game with a 2-run double. And you look at LSU, Curiel's been great at the top of the order, hitting 348. Fry, the DH, is hitting about 330. Jones is hitting about 330. And you look at their slugging, their top 5 hitters in their lineup, especially against Arkansas, were all 500-plus sluggers. So this is an LSU team that is going to hit the ball out of the ballpark. Now, the fun matchup is the contrast in South because Coastal has a lot of good balanced attack, meaning that there's not one guy that's going to carry Coastal on a given game, but they'll have different heroes every night. And it really starts with their catcher, Chase Bodine. He's a 325 hitter at the top of the lineup. He does some good things. Alexander, the left fielder, can steal bases. Blake Barthol has come up with some clutch hits. So they have a really good top 3 as well. You look at Coastal's lineup, and it's usually guys around like nobody hits below 270. So they're a team that's going to have guys come up with clutch hits time and time again. As much as I love the story, as much as I love the fact that Coastal could win their second national championship, I got to go with the SEC. I think more people have picked Coastal because of the winning streak, and I just think LSU is the more complete team. And I think the Anderson-Ionson combo is going to be enough. So I'll say LSU in 3 gets this done and moves on to the title. So let's get to soccer. We'll give you our FIFA Club World Cup update first. Some games going on as we speak. LAFC is tied 0-0 in the 33rd minute with S. Tunis. Earlier today, Benfica beat Auckland. Auckland has been awful. They lost 10-0 to Bayern Munich, and now today they lose 6-0 to Benfica. 2 penalty kick goals for Angel Di Maria in that one. And Chelsea ends up losing to Flamengo 3-1. Chelsea got a goal in the 13th minute from Pedro Neto, then 3 goals by Flamengo in the second half to get the win and go to 2-0 in that group. So Chelsea probably going to qualify, but it's going to be a little bit dicey. These teams from Europe are having a really tough time. Go back to last night when Botafogo beat PSG at the Rose Bowl. There's been some really interesting games for sure. And to me, that changes really the course of what happens in this tournament. But the South American teams are playing extremely well. And then later tonight, you have Bayern Munich, who, of course, coming off that 10-game performance, takes on Boca Juniors. That's at 9 Eastern on TBS. So that's your slate for Friday. Saturday, Borussia Dortmund's back in action. That's at noon against Sundowns. Inter Milan against Urawa Reds. That's at 3. Fluminense against Olsen at 6. And then River Plate against Monterrey at Saturday at 9. Now, that's the matchup I'm looking forward to this week on the Gold Club FIFA Club World Cup slate. River Plate got a win in their first match. They have 3 points. Monterrey got the tie with Inter Milan. And these two teams do play each other, which is rare in these kind of matchups. You don't get a lot of comparisons. They played the last 2 years in club friendlies. They tied 1-1 in January of 24, and then River Plate won 1-0 in January of 2023. So there is some small sample size to go off of. Facundo Colidio scored a goal in that one. They were able to get goals all over the place in their first match. 3-1 win over the Reds. So that should be a good one. And then Sunday, Juventus against Wydad. Real Madrid tries to avoid an 0-2 start against Pachuca. That's at 3 Eastern on TNT. Salzburg against Al Hilal at 6. And then Man City wraps up the night against Al Ain at 9 o'clock on TNT. So I'm really looking forward to see, especially can LAFC actually get a win. And Jess, our host of Shinpan Shenanigans, says they don't know why LAFC is using a 4-2-3-1. They don't do it well with it. PSG is going to come back with vengeance against Seattle. That's going to be a good match, especially when you look at the table. PSG is going to need a win to get through because right now PSG and Atletico each with 3 points. Atletico is going to have a tougher matchup, but we're going to see what happens with that. Group A, as Jess points out, Miami and Leo Messi got a win over FC Porto yesterday. They are tied with Palmeiras, who won here at MetLife 2-0 against the fourth team, Al Ali, in that matchup. Finally had goals at MetLife. We had 2 games here in New York, New Jersey where nobody scored. And people complained about the turf, and there was only 40% of stadiums filled. And you'll get that on some matches. But overall, it's been pretty good. Benfica, of course, we'll see if they stay in first place, but they are ahead right now with Bayern Munich to play later tonight. Flamenco's got the 6 points. Chelsea's got 3. If LAFC can get to 3 points here, it would be an interesting setup against the 4th place team, Esperance, in their last match. Well, let's see if LAFC play Flamenco, actually, I think. Group E, we mentioned River Plate over Monterrey right now. Group F, the leader is Mamelodi with 3 points. And then in Group G, Juventus and Man City each with 3. And then Salzburg, the only team with a win in Group H. So been a fun Club World Cup so far. We'll see how it looks as we get into next week. The Gold Cup, USA last night advancing to the knockout stage. They beat Saudi Arabia 1-0. Chris Richards with the goal from Greg Berhalter's son, Sebastian Berhalter. Saudi Arabia, look, that's not a win that we should sleep on because Saudi Arabia beat Argentina in the World Cup last time around. That's still a quality win. And when you lose to Turkey and Switzerland the way the U.S. did, you take those quality wins, you can get it. They will play Haiti Sunday at 7 Eastern. Now, that game doesn't really matter because the U.S. is at a +6 goal differential. They should advance in first place out of this group. But the key game to me in Gold Cup is going to be Sunday. But it's not the U.S. It's Mexico-Costa Rica. That's at 10 p.m. Eastern on FS1. And the reason why this game is big, the winner of this one, or if Mexico draws, they win Group A. The winner of Group A plays the runner-up in Group B in the next round. The runner-up of Group A, they probably play Canada. Canada's got a matchup Saturday against Curacao. Canada scored 6 goals in their first match against Honduras. Jesse Marsh was suspended for that match as the coach, but he's usually the guy that's kind of gotten Canada back to prominence. Costa Rica has had some crazy finishes in their first couple of games. So I would expect some craziness here, and Costa Rica's defense is going to be something to watch in this one against Mexico. Just saying USA wasn't as strong against Saudi as they were Trinidad and Tobago. Yeah, but even though there was a lot of tension in that Trinidad match, I still think even though you didn't blow Saudi Arabia out, you get a win. And I think the gap between Trinidad and Tobago and Saudi Arabia, there's a lot of a wider gap. Maybe I'm giving the U.S. a little bit too credit because my expectations of them are so low. But this is where you got to get those stars come into play. So to me, it's where can we find those stars for the next World Cup next year? Maybe Chris Richards is that guy. We shall see. And in the NWSL, there are a couple big matches this week, and it goes back to what Jess was commenting earlier about Gotham FC. Do I think Gotham can make a comeback? Now, the question is going to be what really is a comeback? Do I think Gotham can make the playoffs? Sure. I think they have a shot to make the playoffs. But it starts tomorrow, a big match against Bay FC. That's a 7:30 Eastern kick. Esther Gonzalez, she stepped up again with 2 goals against Utah last week. Both these teams are 4-3-5, and we're talking about trying to figure out playoff positioning. This is a must-have for both these teams right now. They're at 15 points, trying to figure out where they are in the standings. They're a tie for 8th with LA as well, Angel City. So this is going to be a really fun match. I think Gotham's got enough. Now, they do have that no NWSL games for June 23rd, July 31st. So this is really the last big week in NWSL. But I think Gotham, especially with Rose Lavelle back, I think that plays a big deal. Can they get enough scoring? I think that's been the big difference for them. Especially last game, they had the red card of Jessica Carter. Does that play a factor into Saturday? And then Sunday, 10 p.m. Eastern, it is San Diego against Washington. The San Diego Wave are third in NWSL. Washington is fourth. Both these teams are playing well going into this match. Each of them have had a result in 4 of their last 5 matches. So you have 2 teams in the top 4 of the league that are playing well. That one, if you're looking for a late game, it's 10 Eastern on CBS Sports Network on Sunday. So Taryn asked me, is the U.S. starting to get it together, or is it just a mirage? Jess seems to think mirage. I think, ask me this question, Taryn, after the Gold Cup is over. Like, let's see what the U.S. does against a Panama, against a Canada, against a Mexico. Like, let's see Pochettino win a tournament before I say that they're back or that they're starting to find it again. Because that's where we are at this point, is trying to figure out what's going on with those things. So let's take one more time out. We will talk some golf coming up after the break. We have a really good event going on in the Travelers. It's the last signature event of the season, and the leaderboard teeing up to looking like a good weekend here in the tri-state area. We'll talk some NASCAR out in Poconos. We'll talk IndyCar. We'll talk NHRA, IMSA, and then we'll look ahead to next week. Drafts galore and lots of storylines in the draft for both the NBA and the NHL. You're listening to the Primetime Preview on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all this sports. We will wrap up this 4th episode after this.
Rise and shine. It's 4 a.m. The stars are still out. The sun is beneath the horizon, but it's time to punch in and go to work. The comfort of your warm-ups turns into the grinding out of your reps as the clinking and the clanking of the plates create a symphony of euphoria. There's no other feeling like it. Earn it, burn it, and take what's yours. IE Sports Radio has proudly partnered with Vital Apparel, a brand that not only fits great, but also promotes and donates to mental health research. Use our code IESR to get 15% off their comfortable and inspiring gym wear and help them on their amazing journey to support mental health. Go hard, take part in your iron therapy, and be strong. Because when your mental health is as strong as you are, there's no telling how far you'll go. For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iesportsradio.com. At iesportsradio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the IE Sports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop, including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at IE Sports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
Welcome back to the Primetime Preview here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all of the sports. You just heard the voice of this awesome network, Larry B, over the last 2 commercial breaks. As he said, to wrap up what you should be watching on your TV guide, again, comment here in the chat, YouTube, Twitch, X, Facebook, what you're looking forward to this weekend, what's on the top of your sports watch list. Start to get into some other sports as well as you keep an eye on. And we'll start with the PGA Tour, and this is a really fun leaderboard in the final signature event of the season. It is in Connecticut. Now, the signature events are like the great events that aren't the majors. So after this week, of course, you have the Open Championship in July. All of a sudden, then we have the playoffs and then the Ryder Cup, which is going to be great at Bethpage Black in Long Island later this year. But signature events usually are the top 70 players in the world So you're not going to have that surprise player that wins, although it was great to see JJ Spawn win the U.S. Open last week with that miracle 65-foot putt and going from out of nowhere to winning. Spawn was in this tournament this week, but he's not doing so great. He is actually at +4, which is tied 59th out of 70. Jordan Spieth did withdraw today. First time he's ever withdrew in a tournament. I was dealing with some upper back issues. But the players that are competing, it's a really tight leaderboard. Justin Thomas made a bunch of birdies today on the back nine to shoot 64. He is tied with Tommy Fleetwood, who shot 65. And Scottie Scheffler, world's #1 defending champion. He was 8 under yesterday. Only shot 1 under today. The course was very tough this morning. A lot of wind in addition to the 90 degrees. And Josh Ritter, the Scheffler is so consistent. I don't know if he's Tiger necessarily, but he is probably the closest thing we've had to Tiger in a while. But this leaderboard actually pretty good. Jason Day, people seem to forget him sometimes. He's 1 shot back. He shot 66 each of the first 2 days. Austin Eckroat is 2 back, and then the players 3 back, Nick Taylor and U.S. Ryder Cup captain Keegan Bradley. Patrick Cantlay rose up the board. He's 4 shots back at 5 under, tied with Harris English and Rory McIlroy, who had a great first day. He was 6 under par, and then he shot +1 today. Had a rough start to his round on the front 9. He actually went out in 3 over, but then made 3 birdies on the back 9 to kind of really keep him in contention. I kind of like the way Justin Thomas is going right now. And this could be a big week for Justin Thomas. Of course, he won earlier this year at Colonial. Or not Colonial, at RBC Heritage earlier this year. And you think about if JT can get this win and get himself into the Ryder Cup, he's a guy that loves to play on those big stages. And if the U.S. is going to beat Europe on their soil later this year, they need JT to be that guy. So when JT's got the putter going, he's one of those players I wouldn't want to go up against. So to think, though, you're going to have JT and Scheffler, I don't know if that's the final group, because I think with Fleetwood coming in toward the end, I think it'll be JT and Scottie Scheffler in that final group tomorrow on CBS. So that should be a really fun event. And Josh said, I agree, the closest to Tiger since Tiger. Nope. Believe me, I think Tiger's the GOAT as well. There's nowhere close, but we've seen like Rory's had his moments, and Brooks Koepka's had his moments, and Spieth's had his moments. But Scheffler's been the more consistent player, and he has been a guy that every week he seems to be, if he's not winning, he's contending. Like last week, he just showed up and didn't play his best golf. Well, nobody really did at Oakmont, but he was still like top 5 and in it with a few holes to go on Sunday. So no surprise there. So that's what you got looking forward to in the PGA Tour this week. If you're looking for some more golf, there is the KPMG Women's PGA Championship. That's underway in Texas. Gino Fidecool, she leads by 2 shots right now over Chisato EY. Lexi Thompson's in the hunt. She shot 70 today. She is 3 shots back at 2 under par. So that's a name to watch if she can climb the leaderboard. Brooke Henderson is tied for 7. She's even. Rough one for Nelly Korda. She's at +2 right now, trying to make the most of her second round. But she is 7 off the pace there. So if you're looking for golf, that's another major for the LPGA. You can check that out. That'd probably be an NBC, I think. Going to racing with NASCAR. It is the Great American Getaway 400 this weekend at Pocono. Denny Hamlin's been the guy playing well there. 7 career wins at Pocono. He didn't, of course, race last week at Mexico, but he got to keep the championship points. But Hamlin should be the favorite. But a racer to keep an eye on is Kyle Busch. Now, Kyle Busch is the guy that's kind of fallen off the big standings over the last couple of years. But Kyle Busch has won 4 times in Pocono in his career. He had a rough go of it in Mexico, so he needs to bounce back desperately. But he hasn't had a top 10 in the last 5 years. So you're looking for somebody out of the blue that maybe you're just saying, hey, this guy knows the racetrack. He's got a shot to get a win. Give me Kyle Busch to at least get in contention. That's going to be my surprise pick this week. Going to IndyCar, it is the Road America race, and Team Honda just keeps winning, man. They're trying to win their 8th straight race to begin the year. Kyle Kirkwood is trying to win his 3rd straight. But keep an eye on Will Power. Will Power is the defending champion from last year. Team Penske desperately needs a win. They're not off to a great start, so he will try to help Team Penske get back on the podium. So that's what to look for in IndyCar Road America this week. Then you have the NHRA Virginia Nationals, and in terms of the pro mods, Billy Banaka is going to be one to keep an eye on. He is trying to win for the first time this year, but Banaka's been close. He's been fourth in points this year, so he's going to be one of those racers maybe finally gets over the hump because J.R. Gray and Mike Stavrinos keep winning everything. Of course, Taryn talked about yesterday the whole thing with Tony Stewart. So that's to be another thing to keep an eye on over the course of this week as well. And then last but not least on our racing, our trek around the racetrack is the IMSA at Watkins Glen. Of course, the Porsche teams always seem to do well there. A couple drivers to watch in that. Riley Dickinson has won 3 times this year, and he also won this event in 2023. And Ryan Yardley, he has had 4 second-place finishes and a win this year. So he has been one of those more consistent racers on IMSA courses. See if he finds a way to take advantage of that this week. So that is your trek around the track. If you're looking for some nasty, some racing to watch with no Formula One this week. And Larry said it's going to be a great race at the Glen. Of course, we had Le Mans 24 hours Le Mans last week. That was an epic race as it usually is. And we had, of course, 2 to the extra mile on Monday with Daryl Kinsey. He gives you a good job going around the tracks and giving you the update on what went on in racing over the weekend. So as you look ahead to next week and what we're going to be talking about next week on the show, NBA and NHL drafts in full swing. There's a lot of drama here for both of these drafts. The NBA in particular, because really it's kind of weird how the season's going to end Sunday and the draft is Thursday. Like and free agency is the week after. There's no offseason in the NBA. What happens with Kevin Durant? Does he get moved this weekend? We're going to see. Does Ace Bailey work out for anybody? Or does he try to make his way to the Brooklyn Nets and stay in the Northeast? That's been kind of weird. There was a rumor that the Wizards, as Mike Papp and the IESR DMV says, woo NBA draft. I saw a rumor that the Wizards were trying to trade up to get Dylan Harper. Does Giannis get moved in the draft with the Spurs having the number 2 pick? Does that happen? This seems there's more drama around the trades than the actual draft because really outside of Cooper Flagg, there's not really I love Dylan Harper as a player. It's kind of sad with Rutgers that Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey didn't get to a tournament because I think both would have really shown on that stage. But I think the X factor guy in this draft to me is Jeremiah Fears. That's a player from Oklahoma, point guard. He's a guy that can really make things happen on the court. Kind of doesn't get noticed a lot because people aren't watching Oklahoma basketball that much. That's got to keep an eye on. Then the NHL draft, New York Islanders with the number 1 pick. Matthew Schaefer's likely the pick there. But keep an eye on the Islanders maybe making a second trade to get the local kid, James Higgins, who's also from Long Island. We also, of course, have big NHL. Could be some trades happening. We saw Chris Kreider get traded to Anaheim from the Rangers side of things. Do they make moves? Because now with Edmonton, the clock's ticking, and I think what's going to be interesting to see, the Mitch Marner stuff, of course, is interesting, and Adam Karnick in the neutral zone do a really good job with it. Make sure if you missed it, check out that recap of the Stanley Cup. Do teams spend a lot this summer, or do they wait and see if Connor McDavid goes to free agency next summer? Because that's going to be the player everybody's going to want. And it's going to be like decision 2.0 all over again if that were to happen. And Mike says everyone keeps saying the Wizards are going to trade up. Again, you've got pick 6 and pick 18. Wouldn't be a shock if they tried to do that, to try to get a premium player that they desperately need. And no, Kevin Durant's not going to DC. Last I checked, it was like Heat, Timberwolves, and Rockets. I think apparently the T-Wolves want him, but he doesn't want to go there. And KD, I think, is past that point where he gets to pick wherever he goes. He's had that chance. And I know Phoenix desperately needs the draft capital, desperately needs the players kind of to retool. But to kind of dictate where he goes, I think he's past that point. Plus he's 37 now, I think. And Connor McDavid's just come to DC once Alexander Ovechkin retires. And Joshua says salary cap's jumping, so you might see more moves because teams have more money. But it's going to be real interesting across the league. Of course, it's going to be, besides that, you've got a couple things going on. We're another week away from the Commissioner's Cup final with the Fever and the Lynx. That'll be a week and a half. Wimbledon will be in a week and a half. The hot dog eating contest in a couple weeks. So we've got some good stuff going on throughout all the sports. But again, it's been a really fun week as we get set to wrap up episode number 4. And of course, headline is always Game 7. Pacers Thunder, 2 best words in sports is Game 7. If you're in them as a fan, it either will give you the absolute elation or it'll break your heart and you'll remember it for a long time. Will the Pacers or Thunder, which team will be on that side of the coin? We will find out. Of course, we have WNBA, 2 good ones this weekend, Fever and Aces, Liberty and Storm going on out on the West Coast. So the West Coast kind of rules WNBA this week. Baseball is going to be fun. Again, Mets, Phillies. Can the Mets get some wins? We have some breaking news, of course. Dodgers-Padres suspensions came up. Robert Suarez, the Padres closer, gets 3-game suspension. Mike Schilt and Dave Roberts each got a game for that stuff last night. So Padres beat out their closer. Maybe this weekend we'll see appeals. But good series out. Mets, Phillies, Mariners, Cubs is fun. And what does Rafael Devers do to troll the Red Sox this weekend? College World Series. Again, I see a lot of people picking Coastal. I'm going to pick LSU just because I want to be different. And I think LSU has been just a more talented team. Think about it. They beat Arkansas twice to get here and beat UCLA. This has been a real interesting path for the Tigers. I think Coastal has had an easier road to get here. And I don't really look at them as the underdog because they were still a top 16 seed. It's just a really good team. I'll stop talking about them like they're a Cinderella. They're a really good team. FIFA Club World Cup is going to be fun to watch this week. Can LAFC get a win and make that interesting after Miami got a win to help MLS yesterday? Gold Cup going on this weekend as we get ready for the knockout stage. And PGA Tour, it's going to be a fun week at the Travelers, especially with 3 players tied at 9 under par. And with the top 70 players in the world, you're going to see some low scores, and it's going to be great. Again, we got a great set of shows on the network. Of course, Set Point and the Extra Mile on Monday, Bullpen Bulletin on Tuesday. Of course, opening series Adam Carnick gets your week started, and then Challenge on the Play on Tuesday, Defining Moment on Wednesday with Larry B. Lead off Thursday with Aaron Rodriguez, and of course, we end it with me, the Primetime Preview. Enjoy the weather. Again, it's summer, 7 o'clock on a Friday night. It's still sunny out and beautiful. So you get me get to go out a baseball game or something and have some fun along the way. Thanks to all who tuned in this week. Thanks for all participating in the chat. From Larry B and for all of our IE Sports Radio team, Ricky K saying enjoy your sports weekend. I'll see you back here next week.